When you're talking about elegance, grace, beauty, brains, you're talking about the guest we have on today. She made her first big splash on screen as Jennifer in Search for Tomorrow. Then she originated the character of Jenna Wade on Dallas. She's gone on to more than 150 TV and film roles like The Seduction, North and South, Falcon Crest, Friends, tons of theater work, and just this week celebrated a birthday. Happy birthday. Known also for her tireless activism, prominently in support of the fight against AIDS. Say hello and happy birthday to the divine Morgan Fairchild.
Hi. Well, thank you for that. And thank you for the happy birthday. I appreciate it.
This is normally the point where someone says, pinch me, I'm dreaming, but don't pinch me. Don't wake me up. If this is a dream, let it stay another 40 minutes or so. Morgan, welcome to Wizard World.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here. And it's really extra fun because as everyone else is doing, I had a COVID birthday kind of by myself, a couple of Zoom calls. So it's nice to see everybody and feel like I'm back in the world.
We mentioned in the opening that your first big role came on Search for Tomorrow. You were on that for 22 episodes. How did you get that role? How did you get started in acting? This is the mid to late 70s.
Oh, I actually got started in the 60s. I started because I was such a shy kid. I couldn't make an oral book report in the 5th or 4th grade. And so my mother, who had come, family of attorneys and debaters, was determined that no kid of hers was not going to be able to make a book report. So she enrolled my sister and me in drama classes. And my sister loved it. And of course, I would get so scared every week I would throw up before I had to go. But then there were some auditions for children's theater, and my mother insisted that we go. And lo and behold, that lovely director gave us both parts. That's the difference that an adult can make in a kid's life is if being so shy, if I had to go to that and been turned down, I don't know if I would have ever had the nerve to go back. But because he took pity on us or whatever and gave us parts, it just kept steamrolling, and I just kept working since I was 10. I've just worked since I was 10, mostly in the theater, and then starting doing a lot of commercials and runaway movie productions in Dallas, and then moved to New York in 72 and got on Search for Tomorrow. And more than 22 episodes I was on for a few years, but it was great fun. Each thing was a bigger break, and you just keep learning as you go.
We owe it all to a book report that you couldn't do. What was the book?
I owe it to the fact that my fear of the stage was second only to my fear of my mother. I knew at that audition, if we didn't get up at audition, I'd get yelled at all the way home. So I did. And like I said, the gentleman was kind enough to give us both parts.
Well, lucky for us and lucky for fans all over the world who are watching us right now on Wizard World Virtual Experiences. People have checked in from Canada, New York City, France, Philadelphia, Ohio, New Mexico, Scotland, somewhere else in the UK, Oregon, California, New Mexico. Every corner of the globe watches right now or watching us live on Wizard World Virtual Experiences. And I think that's a testament to the breadth of the work you've done. I mean, you've done things from roles that everyone has seen on the Search for Tomorrows and the other soap operas. But one I think that people remember, even though it was just a brief one, but it spurned an important character. You were the first to portray Jenna Wade on Dallas. How did that come about? And then, next thing you knew, you were on Flamingo Road. Was there a wish on your part to stay with Dallas, or how did that work out for you?
Well, no, they were the same production company. So when I'd gotten Jenna, we were shooting in Dallas in the summer of maybe 78, I think it was. And I felt sorry for all the poor people from LA because I'm from Dallas and they were not used to the heat. And it was over 40 days in a row, over 100. And Dallas is not like LA. It is a, humid heat. And so it was people were dropping like flies. And so I remember that very specifically as Patrick Duffy and I were shooting one scene in an apartment. And of course, when you're shooting, you have to turn off all the air conditioning. And we were doing what's called an over the shoulder where, they're shooting where you get a bit of the other person. And poor Patrick, every time they would yell action, his neck would sweat so much they had to yell. And they would put cold cloths on his neck. And as soon as they'd pull it off and yell action, we'd sweat. We had to give it up. But people would, as soon as they would yell cut, everybody would run to the refrigerator in this real apartment and stand in front of the refrigerator trying to get cold. But I just remember when I was first shooting, because the show wasn't on the air yet, nobody knew it was going to be such a big hit. But Larry Hagman and I were the only native Texans on the show. And so I guess the producers had told some of the cast to go over and ask Larry and me to get the accent right. And so people would come over and just hold up their script and say, can you say this back to me in Texican so I can hear what it's supposed to sound like? So Larry and I were sort of giving the Texas drawl kind of lessons all through the whole thing. And he was just great. He was fabulous and always fun to work with. And he and I did a lot of charity events together and stuff after Dallas too. Always a great, fun guy.
I think it's a good time now to talk a little bit about your charity work. I think as much as you're known for the great roles that you did, you've played important roles in charities, including AIDS. Talk about how you got so involved in first that charity and then in others that you've been supportive of.
Well, you don't know. I have all these odd hobbies, and I wanted to be a doctor or a paleontologist when I was a kid. And so I just kind of kept my hand in. So one of my odd hobbies is emerging viruses and epidemiology. And so I was following this new virus that had popped up. First, it was 13 cluster cases of Kaposi sarcoma in New York. And then there were like 11 cases of pneumocystis pneumonia in San Francisco. And I'm kind of looking at these, not knowing at that time they're related, but thinking that's weird, these little cluster cases. And then it came out that they were all in gay men. And that's when I knew something new was out there. And so I just started following it, every little tidbit I could find on anything on these odd cases. And so when Rock Hudson got sick, suddenly I was doing a lot of interviews because I was the only person that could go on Nightline and explain what a retrovirus is and how it works. Doctors could, but at that time, I don't know if you remember, but the fear mentality was so strong. People were just terrified. And there'd been the big scandal of Rock Hudson being so sick and kissing Linda Evans on Dynasty. And so people were just terrified all over Hollywood. You'd go to lunch somewhere and people would come up to you waiting for your car, with a microphone in your face, are you ever going to kiss anyone on screen again? It was very weird. And so it was after Rock had gotten sick and I had been Rock's date to his Lifetime Achievement Award, I think from AFI, like 6-8 months before he started Dynasty, and he looked great. So when I was hearing rumors coming off the Dynasty set that he was not looking well, I knew immediately. Apparently middle America didn't know Rock was gay, but everybody in town knew Rock was gay. And I was worried, but he'd been so robust when I'd seen him at the award show. So anyway, I'm on the set of Falcon Crest, and I get a call from on the set. This was before cell phones, I get a call on the set from Ted Koppel. And he starts off and he says, hey, are you going to that event tonight? Now, Rock was still alive. They were having the first commitment to life dinner. Later became the Amphar dinner, but Amphar didn't exist at that time. And so Ted says, are you going to the dinner? And I said, well, I'm hoping to, I'm at work and I hope to get out in time. And he says, well, here's the thing. We're doing a panel show on AIDS tonight. And I said, fabulous. We need to get the work out, get the stigma off. And he said, well, we've got a gossip columnist from New York and our staff doctor and somebody else. But somebody else is saying, that if we don't give them a single, that they have a toothache. And I don't want a single. I want a panel discussion. And so he says, I don't know how to say this. I said, hey, you don't have to worry about that. I don't have any ego. I'm happy to do a panel. The thing is, I'm at work and it's a black tie event and I don't have my dress here. So sure enough, they send a car to my house, get my dress, bring me to work. I'm changing in the backseat of the limo, speeding down the 101, down to the Biltmore, walking to the Biltmore. They put me into this literally cleaning closet, throw a tarp over the Ajax and mops. And I'm sitting there doing my first satellite feed with this plug in my ear, which, and nothing. Now, if you go into somewhere, you'll have like monitors and you can see what's going on. I can see nothing except this little camera in a cleaning closet with this plug in my ear. And I'm a little deaf, so I'm really worried I'm going to miss something here. And so anyway, so at one point, Ted says, can you get it from kissing? And I said, well, there's no evidence you can get it from kissing. However, the virus that this one is most closely tracking is hepatitis B in the studies in San Francisco. And they have just isolated hepatitis B in saliva, but still no evidence it's transmissible that way. So Ted says to their doctor, doctor, is that true? And the doctor says, no, that's not true. Well, I'm not going to argue with an MD on national television, but they did call me the next day and apologize because apparently some people had been upset when they got off the air that the Hollywood blonde acted like she knew something. And so they went out and researched and found out that my research was more up to date than the doctor's, and hepatitis B had indeed just been isolated in saliva. So then I became the go-to person for AIDS for Nightline. Did the first town hall Nightline ever did was on AIDS with 5 hours with like doctors and a few Congress people and myself. And sort of became the go-to person. But I had two advantages or disadvantages because it really hurt my career, but because I became controversial, but because I was taking a stand on a controversial issue and trying to take the stigma off of it and just get it treated as a disease. But it ended up with me working a lot with Dr. Fauci and C. Everett Koop, who was the Surgeon General at the time, testifying before Congress to get AIDS research funding, opening the first AIDS wing, veterans wing in New York with Mayor Koch, doing a lot of specials, TV specials with Barbara Walters and with MetLife, and just trying to educate people on AIDS. And, and I was there for the unveiling of the first quilt, which was very touching at that time. I remember this was when Kaposi's was still very common, but you don't see it now. But it was like lesions on the face and neck and everything. And I was standing on stage for the unveiling of the quilt, and I noticed that the audience was kind of parting in the middle. And I saw this gentleman coming through, and as he got to me, I saw why they were parting, because he was just covered in the Kaposi sarcoma, the lesions. And he came up to me and he said, I just want to tell you, I love you. I am a dead man and I love you. Will you give me a hug? And so, of course, I gave him a hug. And, it's moments like that that made you realize that you could make a difference in people's lives, not only with the research funding, but the willingness to keep the humanity. That's what happened a lot with AIDS, was the humanity. Friends and family abandoned people. And if you would be the one who would give them a hug, it just meant the world. I always remember that one time I used to go visit hospices. And the first time I was going to go visit a hospice, I'm thinking, what do I say? What do I say to somebody who's in hospice? And I didn't know what I was going to do, but I walked in and the first thing is like 3 guys came over and said, I want you to teach me how to do your eye makeup. And so so I spent the afternoon teaching them how to do the eye makeup.
But because you're approachable, that they felt they could do that with you.
We hope you're enjoying this Wizard World panel preview. To watch the remainder of the panel, please click the full panel link in the description below, or visit wizardworld.com for more information.
This is John Glover, and you are watching Fandom Spotlight. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Lionel Luther recommends it. Have some fun. Follow your fandom.